Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. This time, an exciting board from William. He sent me a bunch of different boards, some of which you've seen. I fixed a couple of Amiga boards, and I've got some amazing sort of CPU type things for the Atari ST. We'll have a look at those in the video, hopefully soon. But he sent this as well, and this was like not expected at all. It was just something that was thrown in, and it's amazing. It's a PC. It's a modern PC. This company, Monotech, produced the NuXT as in new XT, and there's a few different ones. I think they're on a version 2 point something now, but it's got an Intel, looks like a coprocessor there, and an NEC V20 or something, you know, so that's an 8086 compatible. It's faster though, isn't it? But one or two of the instructions are different, I think, so you can get some compatibility issues with that processor. And obviously this is a clone of the original XT PCs. So we've got what looks like part of a PC chipset here, I think. Same over here, got a Faraday chip there. I'm not sure what this is here, might be some sort of bus control or something like that. We've got a ROM there, an EEPROM there. We've got some RAM in the middle of the board here. That's a flash ROM, I think. It says there System BIOS actually, and we've got a custom ROM socket there, loads of dip switches. What I think is ID, I'm going to say ID floppy, isn't it? That? Yeah, because we've got compact flash on the back here. And then we've got VGA, serial, PS2 keyboard. Wow, that's really cool, isn't it? If we can get this working, I'm going to need to find a small case. I'm not sure what to go for, and we've got 4, obviously, XT slots there. Yeah, so it's a PC compatible. We've got a power switch there, reset switch, some jumpers or something here for things, you know, speakers, probably for LEDs, you know, front panel stuff. In fact, it says there, front panel. Yeah, so, oh yeah, hang on, a Trident, yeah, Trident chip there. Yeah, TVGA 9000, yeah, so Trident ISA video card, and that must be the RAM for that. So we've got 256k there, I think, almost 32k each, maybe the 64k each. I think there's 256k there. Yeah, really cool. But the first thing I want to do is just see whether this works or not. So I've got a VGA monitor nearby. It's not the correct aspect ratio, but nevertheless it should work okay. Let's just plug VGA in. And we've got power. Now, I've no reason to suspect that there's a fault with this, and you know what, you really perhaps should test for shorts and things before testing something, but it was in an ESD bag, and I've inspected around it, and I can't see any damage, famous last words. So, yeah, let's just try and get this power supply connected up here. It's a bit tight on the bench here. Where's the clip? The clip's on the top, so we'll stick the clip there. That's it, that's in. Yeah, we'll connect power up. You can actually see what happens to the board as we do this, just in case anything blows up here. So power supply is in, switching it on. Got an LED there. Is it power? Oh, it's coming on, and we've got activity, but nothing on the VGA there. So yeah, maybe there's a fault. Maybe there's a fault. It wouldn't surprise me, because obviously he sent this to me. One thing that's worrying me is the colour of the LEDs, just watch. See, that was like a little bit orangey, that's a bit strange. And this one's like an orangey red. That's white, I mean, they're right, they just look strange. That's flashing, look, maybe that's a fault code. I don't know. But anyway, the way things stand, it's not doing much, is it? Nothing's getting hot here. We've definitely got some sort of fault though, haven't we? The question is, what? The obvious one is the VGA BIOS. Well, you know what? It's a hell of a coincidence, but I just happen to have a Trident VGA BIOS here. If you saw the work I did on the Trident cards. Yeah, it's TVGA 9000. There we go, that's out, check the pins. Nice and straight, so pin 1 was towards the top there. Let's get this one in. I'm just going to put my finger on there, switch it on. Oh, it's not powering up now. Oh yes it is, I forgot there's a power button here, isn't there? Yeah, still no VGA, so switch it off. At least we know, well, we think, assuming that that BIOS should work with this. The BIOS isn't the issue, for the graphics anyway, with the video. Nice. So, I mean, we could have, you know, a bad, hang on, it's still powered there, should have done that. Yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, a bad solder point around something here. And of course, I've not looked at the jumpers or anything for this. Maybe this is, in fact, let's just do that. Maybe it's set so that the VGA is disabled. Maybe he had a graphics card in here. So, you know what, I'm going to spend a few minutes just looking at the jumpers here, according to the stuff on the silk screen, and I'll report back. Yeah, and I did wonder about the video, so I've just put my own VGA card in. So we're not using the onboard VGA, and it is actually starting to boot there, look. So there must be some sort of problem with the onboard VGA, I think. So I mean, it's interesting that it's booting already. Let's switch that off. And you can see how I was testing that, so I was being very careful. This 16-bit part here was not shorting on there, and this is, you know, one of these cards that if it's an 8-bit mode, it'll fall back into 8-bit. But obviously, you know, there's limited places you can actually install it because it'll interfere with things here. But anyway, at least we know that the backbone of this is booting. So I've got a DOS compact flash card here that I've used on a number of different things. So let's see if we can get this in. Let's just disconnect the VGA a minute, because I'm honestly not sure which way up this goes. Does it go that way up? No, I don't think it does. Does it go, hang on, I've got to get the right way round, haven't I? Go that way? No, I think it maybe goes that way. There we go, is it going in? Yeah, that's going in. So I've got a compact flash card there now. Let's see what happens with that. Is it going to auto boot? Again, just being careful here just to make sure that these pins here do not short onto the side of that chip. Yeah, there's a gap of about 2mm, so anyway, let's power that on. Now I'd like to hope it's using like the NuXT IDE BIOS or something similar, whereby, switching it on, whereby it'll auto detect that compact flash card maybe. Well, it's booting again, so it's consistently booting, it seems. And of course, well, you can run into the BIOS here, look, F1. So the next thing may be to connect the keyboard up. So we've got 640k of conventional memory there. There's the NEC, look, NEC V20 at 4.77 MHz. And it's got an Intel 8087. This is really cool. Now it says booting OS failed. So I think we need to connect a keyboard up next. Right, so I've got these goodies here from my Dell PC. So handily, it had a serial port, didn't it? So my mouse is just going to plug straight in. And it has a PS2 port, so put the point upwards. There we go, keyboard's plugged in. So that's quite convenient, isn't it? I've got the right kind of mouse and I've got the right kind of keyboard. Yeah, let's see what happens with the power LED. So let's just switch it on. Powering up. Hey, that's good. So then we'll hit F1 here, I think. F1 to run BIOS utility. H for help. Yeah, so you can change the CPU clock speed, change the first floppy drive, change second floppy drive. What about IDE? How does the... This is the weirdest setup I've ever seen in my life. Where's the IDE stuff? So I don't get. Quit. But yeah, this is booting OS, but I don't know, it never seems to get any further than that, I don't think. Yeah, so, I don't know, maybe there's more jumpers for the IDE. Or maybe the IDE's faulty. I'll report back, I'll just have another inspection of the board. Right, so the next thing is these dip switches are wrong. There's a thing here that says default. It says default 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 on, yeah? 1, 2 are off, 3, 4 are on, and 5, 6, 7 are on. And, sorry, those are off and those are on. So we need 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 on. So we'll put 1, 2 up, 3 and 4 down, 5, 6, 7 on. These dip switches feel awful. I think I need to get some contact cleaner in there. So according to that there, those are now set as the default. These are all just in the off position. Some of these here for upper memory bracket, so you can configure it a certain way. I'm not sure what the other ones are. Anyway, let's just leave that like that now. Connect power back up again and see what happens now. It does strike me though that you've got also one down here for enable onboard VGA is number 7. So now we've done that, maybe we don't need this. Let's take that out. Maybe we can use the onboard VGA, maybe there's nothing wrong with this. I don't know. Yeah, we've got VGA now. Let's see what happens. Is it going to boot from the CF card or not? It's not clear as to how you set everything up. I mean, right, you've got F1, which we've done, but that didn't really give us anything to do with hard drives or anything, did it? Yeah, I mean, it could be the size of this, but one of the interesting things, if we switch this off, if you watch this LED here that you can just about see, it did flash. And actually, if we switch it off and take this out, no, it's not flashing now. One of the things it was doing before, it was flashing like crazy, this. Maybe that was given a postcode, I don't know, but like now it's not. There's a chance this compact flash card just doesn't work with it. Like maybe it's about geometry, you know, the actual size of that. Or maybe there's another dip switch here for IDE. Right, so I've disabled the onboard IDE by putting a 6 off. We've got our own one here, covered this in a previous video. It did cross my mind as maybe that ROM would fit into, no, it won't fit in that socket, will it? It needs to be a smaller one. Yeah, we could put a ROM there with the XT IDE BIOS on it. This one's a bigger one because it's got 4 things on it. Now you would think, following standard PC layout, it's going to be that way around like that. So, I don't know, let's switch that on, give that a try. So this is going to be providing XT IDE as well now, but it never popped up, did it? So you know what, that doesn't work on here either. But it does have some dip switches. You know, you can configure it according to what you're plugging it into. Right, the IDE LED flash there, I moved it to a different slot just in case it was making a bad connection. But I don't think so. Skip the memory test. Oh, hang on, yeah, there we go. So in a different slot, that's actually working, I think. Is it going to boot? And it might not boot properly. I don't know. It seems to have frozen at that point, doesn't it? But you see, the problem with this XT IDE card is it's got hassle connections. And I think that's what's going on here. I think it's the hassle connections are making a bad connection. Let's switch it off and on. And I'll plug it in and out again. You want gold plated cards, really. Yeah, and I think actually the base address and all that could be an issue. Well, I'm assuming that's what that is, CC00. So we probably need to change the jumpers on that card to get that working in here. Although I'm not really sure what's clashing with it. It says found BIOS extension ROM, C000. So I don't know. Even that is not booting. Yeah, so I set that card to the most compatible switches. I'll show you that XT IDE. We looked at it in a previous video. It's got its own dip switches, so we set them to the most compatible settings, and actually, it's booted. We've got a C drive up. That is crazy. I'm not sure if anything on here will actually run, because all the games I've got on here are all sort of like 286, 386, 486, really. VGA Lemmy. We haven't got a mouse driver at the moment, have we? So I'll do VGA game, PC compatible, unable to find MSCDX extensions. That's a strange one. It must have been the CD version. Well, let's see if Star Wars will work. I can't imagine that needing much. Star Wars. We probably will need a mouse driver though. F1 to toggle mouse, joystick, keyboard. Oh, that's good, we can use keyboard. I've got no idea. Oh, there we go. QAOP space. Hey! DOS version of Star Wars. Well, we got that working incredibly quick, didn't we? I don't think there's any fault with it. Although, we haven't got the onboard compact flash working, so you know what, maybe there is. But that optional ROM socket, that might be for the XT BIOS. You may need the XT IDE BIOS in there. That's perhaps why that isn't working, actually. So, is it just Ninja? CGA? There was an EGA there, wasn't there? Was there? Maybe I'm imagining things. Let's just quit out of that if we can again. And I'm assuming this doesn't support AdLib. We can connect an AdLib card up Can't get out of it. Let's do Control Delete. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Can Control Delete it. That's good. I guess we can go into check it and look at the system performance. Yay! Fantastic. I've done so much tinkering with PC things recently. Let's do main system. Yeah, it's interesting it's saying 9.55 megahertz there. Yet on the boot it says it's 4.77. Maybe it just doesn't boot at full speed and then switches to full speed. I mean, it's saying there's 2.43 times an XT, and the maths, obviously because it's got the FPU fitted, is pretty fast there, 40.56 times. So I mean, that's pretty good. Guess we could test out the video RAM. Yeah, it's a bit slow, but yeah, 256k, pressed OK. Did I just run it a second time? No, I didn't. It's now doing the text mode stuff. Yeah, so I don't know what else can we do with this. I mean, we've pretty much done it already. We've covered it all. I guess I really should get a case and a power supply for this. I think what I'm going to do is just share a photo of this in my Discord and ask the guys, does anybody know of a really small, like, tiny little case that I can fit this into? Because what I don't want is a huge PC case. I want something with the smallest case that will accommodate that board. Because that's one of the things that makes it nice, isn't it? The fact it is so low profile here. But I still don't know why we had to use that card and why it doesn't work here. What I do know is that when we first powered this on, that LED there was going nuts as if it was looking for something here. Well, I don't understand how that would happen without a BIOS for that. We've got the VGA BIOS there. This is the system BIOS. We've got an optional socket here, which is where I think you'd need the XT IDE BIOS. And I think these are like, you know, chipset stuff. Yeah, there's nowhere for the XT IDE BIOS unless it's, I don't know, maybe it's combined with the shared, you know, the system ROM here, but I don't think so. But there was, when the dip switches were set crazy. Oh, bear in mind, hang on, let's switch it off again. Bear in mind, the way it's set at the moment, dip switch 6, that disables the XT IDE. Let's just flip that up and down a few times. It feels really spongy. I'm not even sure if that's working, to be honest. Let's try that. No, it just says booting OS and then does nothing. Having said that, we've got drive 0 sets 1.44 there. Maybe we should just change the floppy drive stuff, because let's try F1. We'll have to control delete it again. In fact, we'll have to power cycle it. Yeah, maybe because it's got a floppy drive set in the BIOS there, it's trying to boot from floppy first, or at least seek, and that's where it's going wrong. So maybe the fact that there is no floppy drive is the issue here. So we'll do H, change first floppy drive is F, enter floppy drive type. 0, not installed. So we've set it to not installed. Let's do save, W. That made no difference, did it? Let's just power it back off and on again. Hopefully then it'll say, you know, it's not got a drive. Let's see. I think you need an XT IDE BIOS. I think the compact flash ain't going to do anything without an XT IDE BIOS. I could be wrong, but I think that's what the issue is. Right, so after writing the XT IDE ROM to an EEPROM, sticking that in the slot, enabling the slot, changing the base address for the slot, it's sort of starting to boot. Yeah, so it is booting now, and it is coming up with the XT IDE BIOS from the chip that I've installed, I think. That's what that is, I'm pretty sure, R613. It detects the master there, look. It's set to C, and then it starts to boot. It's booting. Error 1H, booting from A. Error 1H, no ROM basic. So, I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Clearly the ROM that I've got there perhaps isn't right, so I think I need to go find another version of XT IDE. The ROM image there is like 8K, but it's a 512K chip. I've used a W27C512-45 WinBond. These dip switches here, the first one up sets it to D000, which I figure should work in this. It's default when it was down there, and you've got to have 9 up here to enable this ROM. It wouldn't boot, it just froze. It wasn't coming up with the, you know, the VGA BIOS there. So anyway, so I went to the project page here where I found a number of different firmwares for the BIOS ROM. So I selected the BIOS there for the right CPU that contained the XT IDE, and then dumped the BIOS as it was, saved a copy of that just in case it wasn't the same as some of the ones that are available online should I need to write it back. And then I used the cat command at the Windows command line there to concatenate the file twice, because the EEPROM was twice the size of the ROM image, so you could concatenate two different ROMs, but I just went with the same ROM twice. At some point later I'll concatenate a different ROM with that, perhaps one for the Intel 8088, and then I programmed that to the chip. Right, so you saw me program that ROM. At the moment I've got the same ROM twice, 64K, 64K. One of the dip switches here, I forget which one it is, might be dip switch 4. It says here you can swap between the upper half of this ROM and the lower half of this ROM. Yeah, so booting that, you will see it does now boot. So yeah, it's that simple. Look, XT-IDE stuff. Fantastic. That's simple. So what I don't understand is why was that BIOS, you know, why did it not have the XT-IDE stuff in it? I think you can flash the BIOS from the command prompt. It's a flashable chip, so it may just be a case of someone bricked it. Well, kind of bricked it, not really bricked it, but you know, flashed it in a way with the wrong BIOS, so that it didn't have the XT-IDE stuff. So I mean, I'll let William know if he wants it back. You can see it's a bit blooming slow here. Yeah, if William wants this back, I am more than happy to send it back, because you know what, he provided me with the Atari Falcon. And I just love that machine. It is one of the most amazingest, favoritist things in my collection. So you won't have seen this RAM board yet, but rest assured it works with it. So you can add EMS RAM to something like this. But I thought just to point out, this FPU is boiling hot. I mean, like absolutely boiling. When you run this at the approximate 1 megahertz, oh my god, they got hot. And the CPU, similarly very hot. But the FPU in particular is boiling. So yeah, ow, I'm going to heat sink that in a minute, I think. Right, Lemmings F4. I don't know what it's doing right now. Oh, there we go. Started. I don't have a sound card in this. And no idea what the keys are. Oh, it's... There we go. QAOP space, presumably. So anyway, Lemmings works on here. It's really cool. And I'm not sure this is using EMS RAM, probably not. So I'll see if I can find something that might work on this CPU with EMS RAM. Right, there we go. And there was some chip creep as a result of that getting really hot. It's slid back in a little bit as I've pressed down on it. So anyway, let's just move this a bit further over there. Just feel a bit more comfortable testing it that way. Now that's heat sunk. The CPU could probably do with one, but it doesn't get half as hot as the FPU. And it's not like we're overclocking here. We're running this at exactly the speed the components are spec'd at, which is like 9.5 megahertz. And, you know, that FPU, it's got a dash 10 on it. It's, I think, it's a 10 megahertz rate part. So I've got to try and find something else that may run on this that may make use of EMS. I'm not sure there is anything, because I think some of these things are going to need like extended mode, you know, or protected mode, whatever it is, which just came in with the 386. Like Raptor, for example, I'm darn sure that needs a 286. Yeah, protected mode, only with 386 or 486. Look, you can't even run that on a 286. We've got Bubble there, Bubble. Will that work, or does that? I think that uses DOS 4G, so it's going to be another one of those that needs a 386 upwards, probably. Yep, 386 or 486. It's going to be like that with all of these. So testing a few games that do work on here. Obviously it's the Amiga game, this, and I was going to try and get the speaker working, you know, add a speaker, and then realised the board's already got one. So inspecting down here it says jumper 1 to 2 for onboard speaker. So if I can just work out where 1 to 2 actually is, well, 1 is this one down here, so I've got a jumper. Let's do it while it's on. There we go. Hey! Sounds terrible. Yeah, so speaker rendition of that music. I can smell that heatsink. I can smell that FPU. It is boiling. If I touch those heat sinks, I burn my fingers. And I just noticed if I reset this, it's got a little jingle. Yeah, it does that every time you reset it. As XT compatibles go, it's not a bad board, this. You could do worse, you know, trying to find some really old crusty XT, but you know what? Half of the fun there may be actually, you know, restoring it and stuff. But of course it's going to be really heavy, really bulky. This thing is nice and compact, uses a modern, well, modern-ish, and these aren't new now, you know, ATX power supply here. But it's got a nice form factor to it. 4 expansion slots. Because the video's built in, and the IDE, and the floppy drive, it's pretty good, really. It does everything you'd want from an XT like this, if that's what your thing is. But I mean, if you're going to go into DOS gaming and stuff, you're better off with something a bit more beefy. This is why I went straight to a Pentium 2, actually. Some people prefer the Pentium 3, because you can use software to slow down the processor and stuff to get compatibility with older games, and that's what I do on that. I use something called AT Slow. And then just give it a number. I don't know, it basically adds like wait states in at various points in the processor, and everything just runs perfectly on it. Doesn't matter what I run on it. And of course, with something like a Pentium 2 or a Pentium 3, you've got, you know, 486 stuff, 386, 286, and XT. And provided you've got the capability to slow down there, you've got the best of everything, really. With something like this, of course, you know, I'm running into all sorts of problems here trying to play games that I thought might run on this, but they need a 286, you know, at the least, or a 386. So yeah, from a gaming perspective, there's not a massive amount you could do with something like this. You could probably play some of the Commander Keen games. I might go and put some of those onto this in a minute. Lemmings and Alley Cat, a few things like that. There's, you know, there were a lot less games available, ones that you might be interested in, than there were on the 286 and 386 and 486 onwards. And testing the EMS RAM out there with Check It, you can see the activity indicator here, and it's working fine. So you can add, you know, something like this, or the low-tech. This is based on the low-tech memory board, but this is a low-tech based 4 meg board. The original one was 2 meg. It provides EMS memory, so you know, at the moment we've got 4080K of EMS RAM available. You can see it's tested the first meg there, it's onto the second meg. So EMS RAM is something you might want to invest in if you were going to get a board like this, really. Because it's a bit limiting, really, with just 640K of base memory. I mean, it's good that it's got 640K, not limited to 512K or something like that. Because that's the thing, if you get some of those really old PCs, some of the IBM ones, the original ones, you tend to find they had 512K of base memory, and you need to get, you know, a memory upgrade card to add that additional 128K, and perhaps provide an additional 384K. Because I think even the XT could support that, and this is how this works actually. It uses some of that memory above the 640K up to the 1 meg region, because it can only address 1 meg, and you know, you get a window there, 64K window that you know, and I think it's split into 4 bits, 4 blocks, 4 16K blocks. You can access, you know, a larger chunk of memory. That's how this can address 4 meg, even though it's got a 1 meg of address space effectively. Right, we can configure some UMB memory, a UMB upper memory bracket. So on a chip like this, in fact, you know, on PC architecture in general, the first meg was, well, that's what we've got here. We've got 1 megabyte, and we've got 640K of base memory. If I look at configuration here, you can see that. Yeah, 640K of base memory. Then you've got 384K between that base memory and the 1 meg, you know, A20 line, really. So it takes a few seconds here to do this. This is the 384K I'm talking about. Now some devices, hardware devices, get, you know, you allocate some of that space. They use the base address there to allocate space within that range. So you can see that as we got there, we've got VGA video RAM 128K. Now it is a 256K card, as you could see, I think maybe from the BIOS message that popped up. But it pages, I think that's how the Super VGA, or, you know, 256K VGA works. We've also got video ROM. Yeah, so you've got 2 things when you stick a graphics card. It eats quite a lot of the 384K there, doesn't it? And then we've got space there, 32K. Then we've got high RAM. That's interesting, so we have got high RAM. Where have we got high RAM from? I don't know. It's like we've got 32K already. That must be something else. I don't know what that is at the moment. We've got nothing there. We've got nothing there. Then we've got our EMS card. So that's, you know, eating 64K, and then we've got the ROM stuff at the end here, adapter ROM, system ROM. So that's a question mark as to what is that? I don't know how we've got 32k there. And why is DOS not using that if that's RAM? There's nothing else on this board that could be, I don't think, at the moment. That would make me think that that's kind of a default, but we might be able to go from there and be able to set that block. So C000 is a 32k block we can use, and we got a 32k block there as well from D800 to E000. What I want to do, I think, is there's some dip switches on the board. Try and change them so that they include that entire range there. Now, this is where it gets a bit cryptic, because actually on the board, as you'll see in a minute, it says, you know, like from 700 and something K, 768K to something else, you know, and this is the thing, like, where are we here? So I'd need to do the math. I'd need to work out the size of these here. So 128K plus 32K, that's where I want to start from, and we want to go up for 96K basically to try and use that range if we can, assuming that is the same blooming thing that some of the RAM. Yeah, so let me just do this, 128 plus 32. Now if I've done the math right there, it should be from 800k upwards. I'll stick a photo of this up. Yeah, we've got 800 to 832, so that we want to do that. That's dip switch 2. Oh, I had 3 on there, that's right. That's what that 32k was. Yeah? So if I set dip switch 2 up, that's another 32k. 864 to 896, there we go, that one on. That should now give us 96k of UMB RAM. So let's see what happens there now. Now, the next thing, I'm going to have to probably query this myself, you know, look how to do this. I'm not sure how you use UMB RAM. You might need a driver, because I don't actually think, well, see, in the past when I would set up 386s and 486s, and even some 286s, I would use UMBS.SYS, and then on a 386 or a 486 we'd have EMM386, and everything, and you'd have DOS high, UMB, and everything would just work. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to be the case here. So we might need some sort of UMB driver or something, I don't know. So if we type NEM/C/P here, I'm guessing there's going to be no upper memory available. Yeah, you see my point here. We've got conventional, used free, upper 0, reserve 0, XMS 0. We haven't got any extended memory anyway. We've got expanded memory at the bottom there from the EMS card that I built. That'll be another video. But we don't have any upper memory. But on our memory map now, yeah, all is making sense. So when I tested it before, we had that 32k block, it was in the middle, that was right, and it's because I had that one dip switch up. You know, you set the dip switches to enable the individual 32k blocks there. So we've now got 96k of high RAM, which we don't seem to be able to use. Yeah, so our memory map's full there now, pretty much, apart from the space for an adapter ROM. Oh, there's, no there isn't, I was going to say this was space there, that's just in conventional. You know, I nearly said shit RAM then. Yeah, so no extended memory. We've got our expanded memory. How do we use that 384? Well, 96. Right, I believe we need to use this, well, use explanation mark UMBS.SYS. Not sure if we need any configuration options or anything on that, no idea. And if we save that, exit. We'll also add the mouse driver in, we'll just load it here. Load height, c:/mouse/mouse.com, isn't it? So let's see what happens with that. Let's Control-Alt-Delete it. We got our little jingle. Are we going to get? It says not installed, invalid command line. So yeah, you've got to put some switches on it or something, haven't you? Yeah, there we go, installed. I had to put C800-EFF, I think, as a parameter. So let's do NEM/C/P now. This keyboard is really hit and miss, and I don't know whether it's the keyboard or what. Hey, we've got some upper memory now. Yay, and our base memory isn't much better really. Yeah, the mouse is loaded into upper memory, look. Right, I've got an AdLib card connected now, so let's go into Keen 1. I'm not sure which Commander Keens supported that sort of thing actually. Yeah, so I'm not sure if we're going to get sound or not. Yeah, you see, you might need a switch after it for AdLib maybe. And it might not support AdLib. I know some of the late ones do. Yeah, so there's no settings or anything there. See what it works like anyway. I'm not sure I ever played the first Commander Keen. Normal game. Ah, there we go. Turn up a bit. Haha! Cool. Oh, that's more than playable on there, isn't it, I think? If I pressed space there, I'm not sure that was a good thing. King investigates the helm ventilation system. I presume it's a bit like Mario, isn't it? I think I've just gone into an area where we're now going to get sideways. Yeah, we go. So I've got shoot and jump. Does that stay dead? Don't know. Yeah, this is one I've never played actually, this one. I mean, you could really see, this is the era where the PC was catching up, but it wasn't quite there. It was a wee bit jerky and stuff. But then again, there are better graphics cards than this one, you know. Ah. Gotta collect them all. Oh, I can't quite get that one. It's going to annoy me. That's the thing, when I play these kind of games, I do get really irritated when there's like one thing that I can't collect. It's like, what's that all about? Stop putting all this stuff to tempt me. Right, after a lot of messing around using DOSMAX, yeah, you can see we've got tons of conventional memory now, 619k. I had to load the EMS driver last and not load it high. If I load it high, I get some sort of problem, a divide by 0 or something every single time. But that seems to have booted, so I'm going to check it. And I'll just check out the EMS RAM. And I do think we've got a clash between the EMS and DOSMAX, whatever it's called, because the last two blocks showed up bad here and it's failed on expanded memory. So I'm just going to comment out that DOSMAX, I think, and then just retest it. It couldn't be RAM on that card, but I don't think so. I think the two are clashing actually. Yeah, and testing again without DOSMAX, it's working again. So there is some sort of clash there. I guess it's one of these things I could configure around it if I can work out exactly what the actual cause is. But, you know, the way this is set up for me, I could adjust comment or uncomment depending on whether I want EMS RAM. And I could have a boot menu so I could decide whether I want EMS or whether I want lots of conventional. So yeah, I'll just leave things the way they are with it commented out for the moment. So there's a new version of this. As I mentioned, William's got V2 and he's kindly said I can keep this, which is absolutely blooming amazing. So yeah, post in the comments down below, what do you think you should do with regards to case? I think it's micro, I'm sure it is micro ATX this. So I want to get a really small case. Obviously it's got to be so high just to accommodate the cards there, but I want something that's got a really small power supply. And by the way, the NuXT was based on schematics by Sergei Keselev. I probably mispronounced that name. Yeah, and then Monotech obviously used his schematics there and perhaps have expanded upon it and stuff and added some extra features. You have got some jumpers and things here. I think you've got parallel port stuff as well on here, I presume. And obviously you've got the usual LED points for, you know, power, drive lights and things like that. This version 1, the main difference between this and V2, I think, has got what they call a PC/104 VGA card. So instead of it being on board here, it's on a little module that plugs into like a pin header thing here, and you can, you know, obviously it's an optional thing. You don't have to get the VGA card, but it's also got a real-time clock, you know, and a date-time chip. Because I don't think, looking at this, yeah, this board hasn't got one. I didn't go over all the chips here. There's the odd 7.4 series and stuff around here, and some CMOS chips and stuff. There's a switch here, 32K64, which you use to specify the size of this ROM here. Yeah, when you got the you know, the ROM optional ROM socket filled, and that's where I started in terms of the ID stuff. You know, I tried just a standard XT ID BIOS in there. Yeah, it wasn't quite working, was it? So ultimately, the solution to get this board up and running with the compact flash here was just to reflash the ROM here with one of the correct BIOSes. And there's quite a lot, and I'll post some links to the project page for this. And if you go to that page, there's loads of different ROMs you can have for this. Because we've got an 8.8 compatible, you know, the V20, is it? An NEC V20, I think. Yeah, I had to use a specific BIOS there. But what I plan to do in future, perhaps when we get a case for this at some point and a few other bits and pieces, I'll probably flash that again, you know, and have half the ROM with Intel support and half the ROM as is now. Both of them with the XT IDE support there. It's really nice that all the jumpers and things are all marked on the PCB here. It's a bit cryptic, the thing there, as you saw, you know, it's like 768 to something. You've got to convert base addresses in your head or calculate like I did, add up, you know, 640 plus 128 of the VRAM plus 32 of the VROM to get your starting position, etc. So yeah, that could be maybe a bit easier to understand. Although, I don't know, maybe it's not that difficult. I worked it out, it can't be that bad. Yeah, and it works well with the EMS card. The point towards the end there is just incompatibility with that driver I was using to get the UMB RAM support. I think this is the RAM here. So you've got 1 mega RAM, and obviously you could have up to 384K of that. Maybe. Probably can't use that much actually because of the BIOS and various other things. But you can have more than what we used. We got 96K. You could probably get 128K or more depending on what other things you've got in here. But this uses a 64K block there to, you know, do its paging of the, you know, 4 meg of EMS. There'll be a video on this, and obviously we briefly tested the AdLib card here. And the AdLib card's quite nice because it tends to just coexist with everything. You don't have like an IRQ and DMA, you know, conflict scenario to worry about with AdLib cards. So those are quite good for something like this. And I've still got 2 spare slots there, so I'll have a think what else can get in this. And obviously I'll probably build another one of these so that this can have a dedicated EMS card. But coming back, a sidetrack there, coming back to the incompatibility between the driver, that use exclamation mark UMBS driver, in order to use this, you know, with that 96K there, that clashes with this, but it seems to clash with the upper 2 meg, and it's 4 meg. So actually, if you got one of the original 2 meg cards, you'd probably find you wouldn't have a clash. I'm not really sure why we're getting that clash on the additional 2 meg, but it is. I tested it a few times, and the first 2 meg check out right, the second 2 don't. I mean, technically I could remove, and this is a nice thing with these, as you'll see in the video, you can remove as many of these chips as you want and just reduce the RAM by a certain amount. So I may find if I did that, if I removed the 4 here, because I think it starts from this side, it probably would work with no clashes at all. I don't know. There'll be a link down below to the website for this. There'll also be links to William's social media. Check out his social media. He's an amazing guy. You know, he's donated the Falcon to me in the past and a number of other smaller things, you know, Amiga boards. As I said at the beginning of the video, got some Atari stuff that are really cool, equally as cool as this. So yeah, I can't thank William enough. He's an amazing guy. And if you want to know more about this, check out LGR. I'll try and post a link down below if I can find the video, but I think he was one of the first guys to get hold of one of these and do a video, so he's got a video there. I'm thinking he's probably tested SimCity on it for certain. And finally here, another point, if you're doing anything with old PCs, yeah, check out, there's 2 things you can check out. Phil's Computer Lab, subscribe to Phil, his videos are brilliant, and he covers everything to do with DOS gaming stuff, you know, all the different generations, using modern stuff for playing older games, but looking at older hardware and upgrades and all those sorts of things. So yeah, that's well worth checking out. And Vogon's, the forum there, which I think Phil is a member of actually, and yeah, they have a lot of useful information on that forum. You'll find that anything you try and search for, you'll find the answer on that forum. I mean, I think actually it was the UMB side of things I was having problems with here with this RAM. Led, you know, searching Google led me to that forum, and it's always the same. You search for anything DOS related, you'll always land there. That's where all of the expert DOS guys are. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with DOS stuff myself. You know, I did a lot of stuff on PCs, primarily PCs, which you'd be surprised to hear because we haven't really done much PC stuff on the channel. I just find generally, I mean, alright, some of these things like this are really interesting to me, you know, as was the 286, the 386 and the 486. As soon as you got past the 486, my interest started to wane because they all start to just blur into each other. The, you know, graphics cards tend to be very similar to each other. Sound cards, you know, after the AWE 64, you could argue that you couldn't really tell the difference, really. You know, there was so subtle differences between the next generation up. Whereas someone like this, you know, from where it was, where the industry was before this, and the models after this, is quite a large leap in technology, and you notice the differences on any of the upgrades and actually the core system and CPU and stuff itself. Anyway, I do hope you found the video interesting. Please like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, please see the Ko-fi and Patreon links down below. I'll catch you in the next one.